Remember when Saturday morning TV was pure magic? I'm talking about cartoons, cereal, and the comforting voice of your favorite host. But what happens when that smiling face on the screen starts smiling back just a little too wide? For a single mom and her son, a mysterious VHS tape turns a harmless kids show into a living nightmare. Now, with her child pulled into the static and a murderous puppet master reaching through the screen, she'll have to uncover the dark secret behind Mr. Crocket's world before the credits roll for good. So grab your remote, adjust the tracking, and keep one hand on the power button as we break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat the TV host from hell in Mr. Crocket. A tense scene is unfolding around a dinner table in the neighborhood of Shuri Bottom, Pennsylvania. As his parents sit down for their evening meal, young Darren is glued to the television. The object of his viewing pleasure is a VHS tape of an old children's program called Mr. Crocket's World. Darren sits hypnotized in the glow of the screen as the show's title character leads a cast of children in song. It's pretty clear that the kid is utterly hooked on the show, but his focus is interrupted by a stern warning from his stepdad, Kevin, to join his parents for dinner. Reluctantly, he leaves the TV running and takes his seat at the table. Darren picks half-heartedly at a bowl of peas and carrots, and he seems to be biding his time until he can return to his place in front of the TV. His stepfather lashes out again, telling him to eat up, while his mother encourages Darren to eat a meal with a more nutritious approach. Back in the living room, something strange is happening with Mr. Crocket and his colorful gang of puppet friends. I mean, they almost seem to be watching Darren and his parents from inside the TV screen. When Darren announces that he's full, Kevin erupts in anger. I mean, he starts shouting that he works too hard to provide for his family to be disrespected, and begins trying to force feed his son. Darren's mother yells at her husband to stop and storms out of the room in anger. Meanwhile, Mr. Crocket slowly slides out of frame on the family's TV set. The flap of the VCR flips open and a pair of eyes appear within the machine, watching Kevin berate his son with contempt. The boy chokes down his meal with tears running down his face as a hand reaches out from the VCR. As the lights flicker, the family is greeted by an uninvited dinner guest. With a menacing grin, Mr. Crocket steps into the kitchen, much to the excitement of young Darren, but Kevin is less pleased to see this strange man, straight out of the 1970s public television scene, standing in his kitchen. Unfortunately, his dismay quickly turns to terror as Mr. Crocket begins to unleash his bag of tricks. Kevin's chair at the dinner table transforms into a snarling monster, which traps the man by the wrists in its razor-sharp jaws. Mr. Crocket distracts Darren with an oversized bale of cotton candy as he continues terrorizing his stepdad. First, Kevin is presented with a disgusting plate of putrid filth and told to eat up. When he refuses, Mr. Crocket takes a more direct approach, opening a huge wound across his midsection and stuffing the rancid meal directly into his stomach, along with a hot clothes iron for good measure. Drawn by the commotion, Darren's mother sneaks back towards the kitchen, arriving just in time to witness the scene of terror unfolding in her home. Okay, so even though I'm a little sus on Mr. Crocket, being an educator of sorts, I'm sure he'd love today's sponsor, Heroes of History. I mean, have you guys even heard about this game? It's a dope new city builder and RPG collection where you can construct societies from the Stone Ages to thriving metropolis, all while collecting over 70 historical and mythical characters. And it's not only a city builder, it's a worldwide multiplayer experience where you can engage in crazy PvP battles. Level up your characters like Medusa or Albert Einstein and use them to engage in real-time battles, leveraging your unique abilities and strengths, all while building up your equipment. There's also this sick game mode where you can do PvE time travel campaigns where you have to protect humanity. And you guys know we're all about that strategy on how to beat, so my favorite way to play is by researching other players and their tactics before I crush them in combat. But you can also form alliances with other players, and you guys should join mine. Honestly, this is one of the most fun games I've played all year, and they also have cool monthly event seasons, so there's always new ways to play and new characters to collect. Come on, try and beat me! Click the link in the description or scan the QR code to download the game today. And if you use the code STARTNOW, it gives you a boost towards unlocking your first legendary hero. I hope you guys can check it out, and with that, back to the show. All right, there's strict parenting and then there's being a total prick, and Kevin just learned the difference the hard way. So how could he avoid getting carved up and force-fed a double serving of decaying nightmare slop? Well, for starters, Kevin might have tried a more calm, modern approach to child rearing, like positive reinforcement, or bare minimum, not force-feeding your kid veggies like it's a hostage situation. I mean, if he would have simply just chilled out, Mr. Crocket might have stayed in his CRT dimension where he belongs. But then again, gentle parenting clearly isn't this guy's strong suit. So if we're sticking with the hardcore disciplinarian route, how about making the kid turn off the TV before sitting down at the table? It's clear that the tube is Crocket's looking glass into our dimension, so cutting the power should disrupt his view into our world. Without a front row seat to Kevin's hardcore parenting methods, Crocket and his pals could be forced to find another playmate for their twisted games. Of course, by the time Kevin gets acquainted with Crocket's smiling chair, all bets are off. With rows of razor-sharp teeth digging into his arms, escape is all but impossible. Or is it? Crocket seems to offer him one final bargain to earn his freedom, which is simply to eat the disgusting plate of food placed before him. Is there any guarantee that he'll be released if he chokes down a few bites of worms, hair, and radioactive slime Crocket is serving up? Not really, but it might be enough to keep the deranged MC from performing a reverse cesarean with the cursed combo meal. Instead, this overwhelmed dad let his anger turn dinner time into the Cronenberg cooking hour and paid the ultimate price. Later, a woman sits in her parked car outside of a church. Her son, Major, squirms and complains from the back seat. Why are they here? His mother, Summer, explains that this is his father's funeral and they're here to honor his memory. Summer leads the boy into the packed church, kicking and screaming, and stops to console him, handing him a game console to keep him busy during the service. Summer gives a heartfelt eulogy for her husband, who was a beloved youth football coach in the community. As she delivers her tearful remarks, Major sits in a nearby pew, totally consumed by his game, either unable or unwilling to deal with his emotions and the loss of his father. Back at home, Summer cleans up as the last guests depart from her husband's wake. Major continues to gripe and sends him outside to play. Overhearing the interaction, one of her guests encourages Summer to enjoy some corporal punishment to keep the boy in check. With his father gone, it's going to be up to her to discipline him. Still dazed from her recent loss, Summer zones out as the woman continues her lecture. Outside, Major is tossing a football around when he's approached by a ragged-looking woman. She tells him that her son loved football as well, and that Major reminds her of him. This mystery woman soon becomes agitated and grabs Major by the arm in an attempt to drag him away. Major struggles to break free as the woman rants and raves. All the ruckus eventually draws Summer's attention, who races outside to rescue her son. Snatching Major from her grasp, she tells the crazed woman to get the hell off of her property. With a mournful expression, the stranger offers a grim warning. He's coming, and Summer had better keep an eye on her boy. Otherwise, he'll be gone forever. With that, Summer and Major return inside. Summer's day was already bad enough. A dead spouse, a grieving child, and a house full of pushy guests who want to tell her how to raise her son. But if she made a few different choices, she might have avoided adding a brush with stranger danger to her list of post-funeral problems. Like, for starters, maybe don't hand your kid a game console at his father's funeral. Sure, it keeps him quiet, but it also teaches him to retreat instead of processing what's happening. A better move? Keep him close, let him cry, and remind him that grief doesn't have a pause button. The high scores can wait, the healing process can't. Next, Summer should have pushed back against that well-meaning but outdated guest who suggested corporal punishment. What Major needed wasn't discipline, it was patience and consistency. Grief makes kids act out, doesn't make them bad. And she may not know it yet, but staying patient with her son could help her avoid some serious problems later. And then there's the raving homeless woman who tries to abduct Major in the front yard. On a chaotic day with lots of comings and goings, Summer should have kept her son within sight. Once she realizes what's happening, she quickly sends the mysterious intruder packing. But as chilling as that "he is coming" warning was, should she have taken a moment to hear her out? Summer dismissed the woman's warning as the ramblings of a disturbed mind, yet the urgency in her tone, the way she said "keep an eye on your boy," suggested she knew more than she let on. Had Summer pressed for answers and asked who he was, where he was coming from, or why her son was in danger, she might have learned the truth in time to prepare for the horrors to come. That night, Summer lies in bed, restless with grief. From the other room, she hears Major calling out for his father and goes to check on him. Waking from a nightmare, the boy asks for his dad. Summer explains that Dad is not here anymore and comforts him with a gift, one of his father's old whistles from his coaching days. Summer tells Major that they're a team and they'll always have each other. If he ever has a scary dream again or needs her for anything, all he has to do is blow the whistle and she'll come running. It's a heartfelt gesture that the grieving mother might soon regret, as Major spends the next few days going to town on the whistle and generally misbehaving. Running, breaking things, talking back, this kid is out of control. Parenting self-help tapes offer little help, and the bills are piling up in the wake of her husband's passing. Summer is at the end of her rope. It's then that she finds that a strange box has appeared in her front yard. Among the assortment of books inside, she finds a single VHS tape. It seems to be some old children's show titled Mr. Crocket's World. Maybe this will keep Major quiet and restore some sanity into her household. Summer takes the tape inside and pops it in the VCR, and from the opening theme, Major is hooked. He watches as Mr. Crocket tells his cast of kitty friends about his magical marker. Anything he can think of can be brought to life through the power of this enchanted writing implement. Major stares at the screen in bliss as the children dribble a basketball Mr. Crocket produces from thin air. Meanwhile, his mother flops down on her bed for some much-needed rest.
Hold on a second, it's 1993, years before anyone dreams up the concept of a little free library. Those cheerful wooden boxes filled with paperbacks wouldn't start sprouting up on suburban lawns until the late 2000s. Back then, if you found a mysterious box of books on your property, you would probably think it was some sort of wholesome literacy movement. At best, you assumed maybe someone had dumped their yard sale leftovers. A quick glance inside and a polite call to the authorities would have been the smarter play, but in her exhaustion and grief, Summer took it as a small, welcome surprise instead of a very obvious red flag. Now, given her state of mind, it's hard to blame her. Between raising a grieving son, juggling overdue bills, and the constant barrage of whistle blasts that could wake the dead, Summer is running on fumes. So when she stumbled on that odd little box and found the VHS tape inside, she saw salvation in the form of a rectangular plastic babysitter. What harm could a corny old children's show really do? As it turns out, quite a bit. Had Summer taken a moment to question why this random tape appeared out of nowhere or what its host could be hiding behind its outdated appearance, she might have spared herself and Major from what came next. Instead, she invited Mr. Crocket's World into her home, unaware that she'd just pressed play on the beginning of her own personal nightmare.
Across town, another child is watching Mr. Crockett's World in the comfort of her bedroom. The girl, Carrie, is enjoying the show until the tape suddenly freezes. Annoyed by the interruption of her favorite program, Carrie goes into the living room to see if her father Bill can fix the TV. It looks like her dad is out of commission, so she pours a glass of water over his head to get him moving. Carrie's father is not too happy about the rude awakening, but checks on the TV anyway. After a quick inspection, he declares the device dead. Carrie will just have to find some other way to entertain herself until he can get a new one. When she protests, Bill blows his top and tells his daughter to stay in her room while he attends to important grown-up stuff. Carrie soothes herself by singing the Mr. Crockett's World theme song in the darkness of her room. That's when the TV begins to glow and a spectral hand cracks the glass of the screen from within. As Bill attends to his business, he's startled by the sudden appearance of a stranger rocking in his chair. Mr. Crocket introduces himself as a friend. He'd heard some raised voices and simply wanted to make sure everything was all right. Bill tells him he must be mistaken and invites him to leave. When Crocket laughs off the request, the frustrated man produces a revolver to help get his point across. And even with the weapon pointed directly at his face, Mr. Crocket doesn't seem to be worried. When Bill pulls the trigger, a harmless bubble emerges from the barrel. Now Mr. Crocket's mood takes a dark turn. He tells Bill that he's failed his sacred duty as a parent and will have to be taught a lesson. Under the control of Crocket's dark powers, the frightened father finds that he is unable to move. Crocket compels him to put the barrel of the gun in his own mouth. As the depraved intruder sings a twisted nursery rhyme about the power of sharing and friendship, Bill pulls the trigger. This time, the bubble that comes from the gun swells in size, filling the man's mouth and growing until his cranium is blown apart. Still hiding in her bedroom, Carrie sees a flickering light in the hallway. She follows the source of the light to find her favorite TV friend sitting in her living room. Outside the house, the homeless woman who accosted Major watches helplessly as Mr. Crocket leads the girl away.
Bill's downfall begins long before Mr. Crocket manifests in his living room. It starts with his failure to see the warning signs and his refusal to believe in anything beyond his own control. That and being totally passed out from his special adult activities. When Carrie's TV first malfunctions, Bill dismisses it as a simple technical problem, ignoring the strange energy surrounding his daughter's obsession with Mr. Crocket's world. A more cautious father might have recognized the danger in the show's eerie hold on her daughter, unplugging the TV, discarding the tape, or simply comforting Carrie rather than barking orders could have broken the psychological bridge that allowed Crocket to enter their world. Then Crocket bursts Bill's bubble, turning his preferred means of home defense into a harmless plaything. If the dope fiend had been thinking with even half a clear head, he might have realized he was sitting on an unconventional weapon of his own. Instead of reaching for the revolver, he could have gone for the rig. A well-placed jab of his medicine might not have killed the monster, but it certainly could have slowed him down. Imagine Crocket mid-villain monologue, suddenly glassy-eyed, his sing-song voice slurring as he starts preaching about sharing in slow motion. Bill could have bought himself a few precious seconds to grab Carrie and bolt while the puppet master drifted off into a chemically induced haze. Sure, he's not exactly parent of the year material, but desperate times call for desperate measures, and when a demonic children's host crawls out of your TV, your moral compass can afford a little wobble. The irony here writes itself. The thing that's been destroying Bill's life could have been the one thing to save it. If he simply used his voice as a weapon, Crocket might have ended up nodding off harmlessly. Instead, Bill learned his lesson the hard way, outsmarted, outgunned, and upstaged by the world's most terrifying children's entertainer. Back at his house, Major is still glued to his new favorite TV show. His mom decides that he's had enough time for one day and flips off the set, which triggers Major's worst tantrum yet. Summer tells her son that he's been watching this video for days and that it's time to take a break. Major tries desperately to snatch the tape from her hands before restoring to more desperate measures. First, he smashes a framed portrait of his father, then, to his mother's dismay, he reaches for one of his dad's football trophies. Summer warns him to put it down, but Major insists on having the tape back. When she refuses, Major sends the trophy crashing to the ground. This latest outburst is the final straw for Summer, who unleashes a furious tirade on her misbehaved son. If he doesn't want to be on her team, she's done being his mother. Stunned and speechless, Major is sent to his room to think about his actions. Later, Summer spends another sleepless night staring at her bedroom ceiling. She notices a strange light coming from the living room, and it looks like somebody left the TV on and the Mr. Crockett's World tape still playing. Summer switches off the TV and turns to go back to bed, but that's when the TV mysteriously powers on again. After some further technical difficulties, Summer decides to end the cycle once and for all by heaving the set onto the floor. Unfortunately, her problems have only just begun. She watches in horror as Mr. Crocket rises from the remnants of her busted television, smiling at her with a face full of broken glass. Summer races to her bedroom to retrieve a baseball bat and finds that Mr. Crocket has opened a portal in her living room using his magic marker. He casually disarms her and steps through the doorway, which closes behind him. Summer is bewildered as she watches the Mr. Crockett's World tape disappear in a puff of flames. It's then that she remembers her son. In a full-blown panic, she breaks down his locked bedroom door just in time to watch the unhinged children's show host lead Major through one of his magic gateways to the beyond. Summer really had a few do-over moments here. Like, first off, there's Major's tantrum. This wasn't some ordinary fit over a snack or a bedtime. He was straight up hypnotized by a VHS tape. Instead of yelling and sending him to his room, she should have recognized that his obsession was the symptom, not the problem. The real culprit was spinning away in her VCR, so unplug it, trash it, or better yet, kill it with fire. Eliminating the source of the unhealthy emotional spiral would have calmed Major a lot faster than a maternal tirade ever could. Then when she finally smashes the TV just before Crockett's grand entrance, the broken glass embedded in his face sends a pretty clear message. Hurting the television hurts him. Yet Summer immediately goes for a baseball bat instead of focusing on the obvious. The tape is the source of his power. She didn't need to play the hero. She needed to destroy the artifact that gave him life. A few well-placed blows to the tape could have stripped him of his magic entirely, or even sent him packing back to where he came from. Overall, Summer should have been thinking like a problem solver, not a brawler. Instead, her panicked choices land her son in Mr. Crockett's twisted reality. Summer's story of a demented children's show host walking through the walls does not go over well with the police.
As for her son, Major awakens to find himself in the world of his favorite TV show, complete with a cast of colorful new friends, and of course, the main man himself, Mr. Crocket. Crocket welcomes him to his new home, explaining that he'll never have to worry about bad adults hurting him ever again. It seems Mr. Crocket's world is a paradise for Major and the other children, even if there are signs of something dark hiding beneath the sunny surface. Back in the real world, Summer posts missing child posters in a desperate attempt to locate her boy. While canvassing the neighborhood, she stumbles upon a fresh crime scene. The house where Bill had his deathly encounter with Mr. Crocket's magic bubble gun. A bystander explains that the victim was a notorious junkie, and since nothing was taken from the home, the cops are treating this incident as a suicide. The only other signs of disturbance are a busted TV set and the disappearance of the deceased man's 8-year-old daughter. Summer realizes Mr. Crocket's handiwork and rushes off in search of answers. The library's microfilm records tell the tale, from the recent disappearances of local kids to the fatal shootout between a children's TV show host and the police. The headlines show that Emmanuel Crocket died in 1979 following a kidnapping attempt, and that the victim was returned safely to his family. But before she can dig deeper, Summer is once again drawn to a mysterious glowing light coming from a nearby room. As she approaches, she hears the familiar sounds of the Mr. Crockett's World program. Sure enough, she finds the show running on a TV cart. Crocket takes a break from his song and dance to address her directly. He warns Summer to stop looking for him, unless she wants to join her husband in hell. His hand reaches through the screen to grab her, but she breaks free and runs towards the library door.
Alright, once again, Summer fails to put the pieces together. Like, first off, once she uncovers the microfilm records proving that Emmanuel Crocket was a real person, she should have leveraged that information. The headlines hint at past police involvement, a kidnapping victim returned safely, and presumably a trail of colleagues, family members, or TV executives who worked with him. Instead of just processing this shocking revelation alone, she could have tracked down anyone connected to Crocket's past. Even a seemingly minor detail like a childhood trauma, a reoccurring superstition, or a professional weakness might have given her a critical edge. A well-placed phone call to a retired producer or a former police officer could have uncovered a clue about his vulnerabilities, whether it was a ritual, an object, or simply a behavioral problem. And she misses another key opportunity when Crocket tries to grab her through the library television. It was clear that Crocket is vulnerable when emerging from the screen. Instead of scrambling and retreating, she should have stayed on the offense and smashed the TV aggressively while he's halfway through. Hitting him at just the right moment might have injured him, or at least slowed him down enough to buy some time. Summer could have shifted from being a terrified victim to taking the first steps towards saving her son.
In her panicked state, Summer hardly notices the man who approaches her. He introduces himself as Eddie Briggs, and he wants to talk about the flyers that she's been posting. He believes her story about Crocket, and the two of them leave to discuss the situation at a local park. Eddie tells Summer that his own daughter was taken by Crocket and has been missing for 5 months. He says that in all of his searching, she's the only other parent to survive her encounter with the otherworldly kidnapper, but Summer realizes that there's one more, the woman who approached Major on the day of the funeral. If they're going to get to the bottom of things and find their kids, then they're going to need to get in touch with her. Eddie offers to use his connections at the police department to track her down, and the two exchange information to meet up later. That night, Summer is haunted by nightmarish visions of Mr. Crocket. Unable to get back to sleep, she stalks around her house with a baseball bat in hand. Despite the late hour, she's startled by a knock at the door and opens it to find Eddie standing on her porch. He says he's found the woman they're searching for. Her name is Rhonda Harper, and she's known to be living at a homeless camp on the outskirts of town. Summer hops in Eddie's car as they prepare to go find Rhonda. When he fires up the ignition, weird children's music that sounds suspiciously like something from Mr. Crocket's World plays through his car stereo. Eddie says that it's just one of his daughter's tapes, and they hit the road.
Alright, under normal circumstances, meeting a sympathetic stranger who just happens to believe your story about a demonic children's show host would feel like divine intervention. But given Summer's track record with haunted electronics and a cursed VHS tape, she should probably treat Eddie Briggs with a heavy dose of suspicion. And maybe a dash of pepper spray. For one thing, the guy conveniently materializes the moment she starts plastering missing person flyers around the town. Knows all about Mr. Crocket and just so happens to claim his own kid was taken as well. That's either a spooky coincidence or the setup to a Lifetime special called Never Get in a Car with a Stranger Who Knows Too Much About Your Trauma. If Summer were thinking clearly and not running on grief, fear, and insomnia, she'd verify Eddie's story before before setting foot in his car. Like, start with the obvious. Check local news articles for a missing child under Briggs. Call the police department to confirm his supposed connections. And better yet, ask for a badge number or an officer who can vouch for him. And when the guy's stereo starts blasting music straight out of Crockett's cursed repertoire, that's not a red flag. It's a fireworks display. The smart move would be to bail immediately. Given what she's already been through, she can't really afford to miss any more signs of the danger that lies ahead.
Eddie drives to the location where the homeless woman is said to be hiding out. As they approach the makeshift structure, Rhonda gets the drop on them and holds a knife to Summer's throat. Eddie ups the ante by pulling a gun, and Summer breaks free. She tells the paranoid Rhonda that her own son has been taken by Crocket, and they're only here to talk. Finally, Rhonda calms down and leads them into their home. Inside, Rhonda has cobbled together a crude communications network from old TVs and other electronics. She explains that Crocket used to torment her dreams, warning her to give up her search for her son. Instead, she continued hunting him with help from these devices. She theorizes that he must be watching them through their TV screens. I mean, how else would he know where to find the troubled children to kidnap? Rhonda hopes to tap into the source of Crocket's powers connecting to his world to find her son. She says that she came close once, but it almost killed her. Nevertheless, Summer pleads with her to try again for the sake of her children. Rhonda takes a seat in the front of the wall of televisions. With Summer at her side, she places her hands on one of the screens, and after a short time, a test pattern featuring Crocket appears and Rhonda's eyes fill with snowy static. Scenes of children asleep in their homes are intercut with maniacal segments from Mr. Crocket's show. It seems like they've successfully opened a window into his power, providing a clear view of his next victim's address. Rhonda seems unable to wake from her trance, so Eddie breaks the connection by switching off the TV, and the three of them head out to confront Crocket before he can strike again. Summer, Eddie, and Rhonda arrive at their destination a little too late. From the flickering television and threatening messages scrawled on the wall, it's clear that Crocket has already gotten down to business in this house. Inspecting further, they discover the dismembered remains of the latest unlucky parent. Around the corner, Summer notices the familiar purple glow of Crocket's portal and hears him leading another child into his world. Sensing their presence, he steps into the living room to confront them. Crocket sends the couch flying with a telekinetic blast that reveals Summer and Eddie cowering in fear. But Rhonda quickly smashes a chair across his back to gain the upper hand. Summer and Eddie race towards the portal, but Rhonda isn't so lucky and Crocket stabs her in the neck with a broken chair fragment. Before he can do the same to them, Eddie and Summer rush through the gateway into Mr. Crocket's world.
Alright, now we're thinking with portals. Summer may be one step closer to rescuing her boy, but she's still missing countless red flags and opportunities along the way. Like, let's start with the obvious, which is Rhonda's weird TV wall is actually a gold mine. As we've seen, damaging the TVs he's connected with hurts Crocket himself. More screens means more connections, creating multiple points of vulnerability that give them a real chance to weaken Crocket before stepping into his domain. By smashing the TVs or rigging the whole network to overload, they just might have weakened him enough to make him vulnerable during their confrontation. Then, once they reached the latest victim's house, the worst move was rushing in like it was an action movie. They should have kept their distance, observed Crocket's methods, and figured out how he operates in a real-world environment. Like, if they're sneaky enough, they might even be able to pass through his open portal undetected and rescue the kids before Crocket finishes his twisted game. And last, we need to talk about Eddie. Yeah, from the moment he showed up, his vibe has been a little off. For a worried father, he's a little too eager and a little too gleeful at the idea of tracking down Crocket. I mean, look at the way he's geeking when Rhonda taps into Crocket's world. And the way he just casually pulls up a gun? That wasn't heroic parenting trying to help, that was a serious cause for concern. Summer should have taken a beat to really question him and figure out why he seemed way too invested in all of this shit, and maybe notice that his enthusiasm could be a liability, or worse, a setup. Instead, she's gonna have to keep an eye on him as she looks for her son.
Now, what Summer and Eddie find on the other side of the portal is a far cry from the colorful TV playland from the VHS tape. The decaying soundstage is occupied by nightmare versions of Crocket's puppet friends, but there's no sign of the missing kids anywhere. Frightened by one of Crocket's twisted creatures, Eddie runs off to hide, leaving Summer alone to face the man himself. She quickly finds herself restrained by the chair monster, giving her a front row seat for story time. Crocket then leads the children into the room and they sit around him in a circle. Summer calls out to Major, but he and the other kids are completely mesmerized. Crocket launches into a reading of his favorite tale, his own origin story. He says that when he was a boy, his father would hit him almost every day. Once he was big enough to fight back, Crocket put an end to the torment by bludgeoning his dad and making his death look like an accident. This is when he discovered his life's calling, protecting children from the mean, abusive parents. But more than anything, Crocket wanted a loving family of his own. By the 1970s, he'd struck a deal for his own children's TV show and things were going great. It was here that he met a boy named Anthony. Crocket could tell something was wrong with Anthony's home life, so he offered to take the boy in, but when Anthony's family reported him missing, Crocket attacked the police, who came to investigate, and died protecting the boy from a hail of gunfire. In hell, Crocket struck a deal with the devil. In exchange for sending the souls of bad parents to the abyss, he received a world of his own, where he could bring children to join his cursed family and remain under his spell for eternity. With the story concluded, Eddie emerges from his hiding place, but rather than attacking Crocket, he launches into an emotional tale of his own. As it turns out, he's not a desperate parent searching for his kidnapped child. He's really Anthony, the boy who Crocket abducted all those years ago. Anthony says that Crocket was the only adult who ever cared for him, and he wished they could have stayed together. He's spent all these years searching for a way to go back to Crocket's world, and thanks to Summer, he's finally succeeded. Now that he's back, he's not going to let her destroy this place and break up their family, so Anthony draws his gun and points it at Summer. But before he can pull the trigger, Crocket tells Anthony to come a little closer. The young man goes in for a hug, but Crocket ain't feeling it. It seems like Anthony has exceeded the maximum age limit for this ride, and his childhood hero pushes him away in disgust. Projecting his own insecurities, he calls Anthony an old, bitter, insane man who has accomplished nothing with his life. Anthony begins to unravel as Crocket and the children continue to mock him. Finally, one of the monsters finishes off the misguided man-child once and for all.
Oh, Eddie. Or should I say Anthony? I mean, where do we even begin? You seriously f***ed up here. First, you go and get emotionally attached to a murderous children's TV host who literally made a deal with Satan. You went full fanboy, strutting into Hell's Daycare thinking you were the prodigal son returning home, only to find out Daddy Crocket wasn't exactly handing out hugs and juice boxes anymore. And let's rewind for just a second. You lied to a grieving mother, manipulated her into finding the portal, and then ditched her the moment things got spooky? That's a double dose of cowardice and creepiness in one convenient package. The real f*** up came when you mistook Crocket's psychopathic mission of saving kids by murdering their parents for a noble cause. I mean, I hate to break it to you, Anthony, but Crocket's brand of twisted justice isn't love, it's just psychosis with a theme song. And then there's the grand finale, your big reunion moment. You finally find your father figure, pour your heart out, and what do you get in return? A rejection so brutal it could power an entire season of Succession. Look, Crocket doesn't see you as his son. He doesn't want you back, and frankly, he seems offended that you aged past 10 years old. In your attempt to help him, you became the sad adult version of the kid who still writes letters to Barney. I mean, you didn't just f*** up here, you built an altar to your own bad decisions and threw yourself onto the flames. You know what they say, nostalgia is a bitch, and in Mr. Crocket's world, it could even get you killed. So yeah, you f***ed up.
With Anthony down for the count, Summer is left to face Crocket on her own. She tries desperately to break Major out of his trance, but it's no use. To teach her a lesson about the value of fairness, Crocket releases her restraints and calls her son closer, telling him to choose between going home and staying there in his fantasy world. Summer pleads with Major to come to her and apologizes for how she treated him before. He starts to break free from his daze, but the reunion is cut short when Crocket regains his hold on the boy's mind. Major leaves his mother's side and rejoins the demented host as he celebrates his victory with one last game of hide and seek, with a deadly twist, of course. Crocket cuts the lights, and Summer runs for her life, with the pack of killer kids hot on her trail. One of the children locates her in the darkness of the studio, biting down on her calf and sending her running back into the open, where Crocket's demented bird puppet swoops in for the kill. Despite sustaining some nasty bite wounds, Summer stomps her avian attacker into oblivion, but playtime is over, and Crocket sends the kids in to finish the job. Summer tries reasoning with them, but her efforts are useless. They walk her into a corner and Crocket calls Major over to close his final connection to the past and finish her off. Using his magic marker, Crocket manifests a massive hunting knife and presents it to the boy. In a final act of desperation, Summer blows into her husband's old whistle to try and reach her boy. Major hugs Mr. Crocket and stalks towards his mother with a knife in his hand. Summer tells Major that she loves him, and Crocket celebrates as the boy sinks the blade into her stomach, or so he thinks. As the hunting knife clatters to the floor, Major hands his mom the magic marker he'd stolen from Crocket moments before. Separated from the source of his power, Crocket loses his hold over the children, but he's not going down without a fight. As he lunges towards her, Summer disembowels Crocket with a single stroke of the pen. With their tormentor lying in pieces on the floor, she reopens the portal back to the real world. But before they can step through safely, Crocket drags himself forward and grabs hold of Major's leg. Summer pulls her son to safety, but Crocket leaves the boy with a sinister parting message. Wherever Major goes, Crocket will be there in a heartbeat, and with that, Summer and Major fall through the portal.
Alright, Summer deserves some credit here. She survived a living nightmare, stomped a homicidal puppet into paste, and managed to save her son. But let's be honest here, she could have wrapped this up a lot sooner if she'd thought like the hero of her own story instead of the final girl in someone else's. Like, first off, that magic marker wasn't just a prop, it was basically a god-tier weapon. She watched Crocket use it to conjure up knives, monsters, and entire pocket dimensions. Yet when she finally gets her hands on it, she wields it like Dewey Cox and his brother playing with machetes in the barn. Considering he's already dead, it's no surprise that cutting him in half is not good enough to finish Crocket off for good. Summer's clumsy penmanship leaves the ghoulish host with enough strength to drag himself around, and his threatening final message makes it clear that he's not finished with her son. The solution? Put a stop to him once and for all with the power of imagination. With the magic marker, Summer has a whole universe of weapons at her disposal. Instead of just slashing clumsily, why not conjure a flamethrower? Doodle a steel cage to trap Crocket in his dimension for eternity, or better yet, cast him into a bottomless pit. That should keep him out of your hair for a while. Summer may be lacking in the creativity department, but she came through for Major and the other children. In the end, let's just hope her lack of artistic vision doesn't come back to bite her in the ass. Back in the real world, Summer meets up with Rhonda at a church clothing drive. It seems like she survived the encounter with Crocket with only minor injuries, and she's overjoyed to be reunited with her son. Afterwards, Summer and Major get back to their routine at home. The missing child posters come down, and the VCR goes straight into the trash as harmony is restored to their small family, but something is still bothering Major. His teacher visits the home to discuss some troubling rumors surrounding the new father figure in his life. It seems that the other children at school are afraid that this man is out to get them and is coming to snatch them up. As Summer sits in stunned silence, Major doodles in his room. Next to a depiction of himself, he labels a drawing that bears a striking resemblance to Mr. Crocket as Dad. Putting the finishing touches on his creation, Major pulls a special marker from the pack, the same magic marker that gave Crocket his powers. Major admires the cursed implement with a sinister grin. Is Crocket still out there, watching and waiting somewhere beyond the TV screen? Only time will tell. Mr. Crocket, yeah, I definitely dig the vibes of this movie. I think the characters, they probably, they did the best with the scenarios that they were given here. I mean, how often does somebody crawl out of your TV and try to kill you? There's no rules for this shit. You just have to go with the flow. And it could have happened to a nicer family anyways. But I'm sure there are different things that we could have done in order to survive today's episode, so you gotta let me know what they are down in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a like and subscribe. Check out that How to Beat playlist for more videos just like this one. I'm Ben. We'll see you in the next video, and have a damn good day.